When you walk a piece of land slowly, the patterns begin to reveal themselves. A giant box elder maple drops its seed, and all around it, a new generation rises. Pine trees cast their needles, shape the soil, and create the conditions for more pine life to follow. In one place, the soil is rich and moist. In another, it is sandy, acidic, and quiet. In another, sunlight breaks through just enough for young trees to reach upward. And suddenly, the idea of a nursery changes. A nursery does not have to begin in straight lines. It does not have to be only rows of pots, irrigation lines, and tags. A nursery can begin under the arms of an old tree. A nursery can begin with a mother tree. At Evermoore Acres, we can look for the strongest, most beautiful, most resilient trees on the land, and recognize them as the genetic heart of the place. These mature trees have already proven something. They have survived the winters. They have handled the storms. They have rooted themselves into this exact soil, under this exact sky, in this exact climate. They belong here. And because they belong here, their offspring matter. The seedlings beneath them are not weeds. They are the next chapter. They are local genetics. They are future canopy. They are the forest reproducing itself. This is the mother tree nursery, a way of growing trees that begins with respect. We find the great trees already living on the land. We study them. We mark them. We learn from them. And then we work with the life they are already producing. A box elder mother tree becomes the source of a floodplain nursery. A pine grove becomes the beginning of an acidic woodland nursery. An oak, a maple, a birch, a hemlock, or any remarkable specimen can become a center point for regeneration. Around each one we can build a living system, not just trees by themselves, but whole plant communities. Under the pines, we can encourage the soil to stay fungal, acidic, and woodland-like. We can allow the pine needles to fall and become mulch. We can protect the young pines that naturally emerge, and we can add companions that love those same conditions. Blueberries, wintergreen, native ground covers, mosses, ferns, plants that do not just decorate the space but belong to the ecology of it. In richer, wetter areas, we can support a different kind of nursery. Maples, box elders, elderberries, spicebush, moisture-loving plants. A different soil, a different rhythm, a different expression of abundance. And that is what makes this place feel so interesting. Because when you look closely, the land is already organizing itself. It is already showing where the pine nursery wants to be, where the wetland edge wants to be, where the maples want to spread, where the young trees are already waiting. The work is not always to start from nothing. Sometimes the work is to notice what is already happening and help it happen better. That is the shift. Instead of asking, how do we force this land into production? We can ask, what is this land already producing? Instead of asking, where do we put the nursery? We can ask, where has the nursery already begun? That idea changes everything, because a tree farm does not have to be a blank field turned into rows. It can be a living forest system. It can be a place where mature trees are not just obstacles, or shade problems, or things to clear around. They can become the foundation. They can become the parents. They can become the story. And for Evermoore Acres, that story matters. This is not just about growing trees. It is about growing a relationship with trees. It is about looking at a mature specimen and realizing that it is not only beautiful because of what it is now, it is beautiful because of what it makes possible. A mother tree is not finished. It is still giving, still seeding, still shaping the soil, still creating shelter, still influencing the generations growing beneath it. And if we work with that, Evermoore becomes something more than a nursery. It becomes a living landscape, a working forest, a place where the old trees guide the young trees, a place where the land itself helps decide what comes next. And this connects to a bigger vision. The ideal nursery is not just a place where plants are stored until someone buys them. The ideal nursery is a place where genetics are protected, where beauty is selected, where resilience is observed, where the plants that thrive naturally are given room, care, and structure. That is the Grow Wild dream, too. A mother tree nursery. A place where the sample genetics we love are kept as larger, living plants, and from those plants we take cuttings, seeds, divisions, and inspiration. A place where the best specimens become the source of the next generation. At Evermoore, that idea is not just theoretical. It is already happening. The box elder is already doing it. The pines are already doing it. The land is already doing it. We just have to recognize it. And then we can begin to participate. We can map the mother trees. We can tag them. We can name the zones. We can protect the young trees that matter. We can transplant some, root prune some, pot some, and leave some exactly where they are. We can build paths that let people move through the land without damaging the life that is emerging. We can create pockets of understory plants that belong to each ecosystem: pine and blueberry, maple and elderberry, oak and viburnum, hemlock and fern, wet edges, dry edges, sunny openings, shaded rooms. Each part of the land can become its own nursery, its own classroom, its own little world. And over time, those worlds begin to connect. This is where Evermoore Acres begins to become more than a property. It becomes a philosophy, a belief that land is not empty. Land is alive. It remembers. It grows. It teaches. And when we slow down long enough to listen, the land begins to show us what it wants to become. Evermoore Acres is not just a tree farm. It is not just a nursery. It is not just a place where trees are grown, moved, sold, or planted. Evermoore Acres is a living landscape, a working forest, a canopy preserve, a regenerative laboratory, a place where mature trees, young trees, native plants, soil, stone, water, wildlife, art, education, and community can all come together into one larger vision. The hope for Evermoore is not to force the land into something it is not. The hope is to discover what is already here, honor it, and help it become more alive. There are many places where nature is treated as something to clear, control, and replace. Evermoore Acres can be the opposite. Here the forest is not a backdrop. The forest is the foundation. The trees are not inventory alone. They are elders. They are anchors. They are teachers. They are the beginning of the story. One of the great possibilities at Evermoore is the ability to plant decades in a day. A mature tree changes a landscape immediately. It brings height, shade, presence, memory. It gives a home instant character. It gives a property a sense of age. It creates habitat where there was emptiness. It turns a space into a place. But moving mature trees is only one part of the story. The deeper vision is to restore the human relationship with trees, to help people understand what canopy means, to help them see that a tree is not simply a product. A tree is climate. A tree is shelter. A tree is architecture. A tree is food. A tree is cooling. A tree is habitat. A tree is beauty. A tree is time made visible. At Evermoore Acres, we can show people what it means to think in generations. Because trees do not live on the same timeline we do. They ask us to be patient. They ask us to be humble. They ask us to imagine shade that someone else may sit under. They ask us to plant for a future we may not fully see. And that is part of the hope here, that Evermoore becomes a place where people remember how to think long term. Not just about speed, not just about the next season, not just about what can be bought and sold right now, but about legacy, about stewardship, about what it means to leave land better than we found it. This place can become a living classroom, a place where children can learn how trees grow, where homeowners can learn what native plants belong under a canopy, where contractors can learn how mature tree relocation works, where artists can create within the landscape, where growers can study propagation, seed collection, soil building, and plant communities, where people can come not just to buy something, but to experience something. Evermoore Acres can become a bridge between working land and wild land. between business and ecology, between nursery production and forest preservation, between practical work and beauty. Because the world needs new models. We need places that prove land can be useful without being depleted. We need places that prove beauty and productivity can live together. We need places that prove a business can grow from restoration, not destruction. This is a place for canopy, community, craft, education, and stewardship. This is Evermoore Acres, and this is only the beginning.